We're at the movies with Matt and Ryan, still the YouTube podcast, and today we're gonna do Patriots Day, the probably one of the most popular as far as mainstream goes out right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Slightly mistaken. It actually premiered number 6 at the box office this weekend, so didn't actually do as well as industry experts thought it would. I certainly thought it was going to do a little better. I think it's the subject matter that turned a lot of people away.
Yeah,
It made I think it made 14 million this weekend. I'll double check that though. You keep talking.
14 million. Yeah. Anyway, but and Mark Wahlberg's in it too. I think that's also what people got turned off by because I think people thought this was
No, Mark Wahlberg's a star.
No, I know that, but people thought this was probably, and I thought too, especially, that this would be a cheap way of putting Mark Wahlberg as the hero in a movie, and to get people emotional, I guess.
The movie came in 7th place actually and made 13.7 million. So, but Mark Wahlberg and Peter Berg have teamed up, and now this is their third movie based on recent historic events. Their first movie was Lone Survivor, which got good reviews, but definitely had some people who weren't a big fan. And same thing with Deepwater Horizon. Sorry for my burp. But which came out earlier this year and was both movies I felt kind of the same about. They were they were pretty well done, good production, all that. Performances were pretty good, but neither story quite resonated as much as it should. And while I think this movie is better than those two movies, I kind of feel this movie falls in the same category of very good but not quite great, you know?
Yeah. I feel like with Peter Berg, a lot of his movies, because I've seen Lone Survivor a while ago, a lot of his movies are like historical events, but they're pretty recent historical events. I don't think.
Well, no, that's him. Him and Mark Wahlberg have been doing that recently.
Yeah, and that's what most of his movies are, which is kind of interesting.
Well,
but
I wouldn't say most, because I mean, look at his resume. He did Battleship. He did Hancock. I mean, that's just his recent thing. I heard his next movie he's gonna do a boxing movie actually. So. But not based on a recent story, but based on like an old story. So yeah. I'm curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, he's also the producer of Friday Night Lights. It's still a big deal. I know it's been 6 years since the last season, but
Coach Riggins Coach.
Still one of the biggest shows in my opinion.
Coach Taylor.
Yeah.
How do you like your chili, Ryan?
Oh, hot. Is that what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, Berg. I mean, he's definitely accomplished from a he knows how to get a good action scene. He knows how to have a good looking movie. From a technical standpoint, he's definitely accomplished. But as far as telling a story, I think he still struggles. And I don't want to focus. I don't want to hark on the negatives too much. I'll get to those later. But
yeah.
This movie does slightly improve on Lone Survivor and Deepwater Horizon because I think it's a little more resonant. The movie does a nice job of patiently building up to the actual Boston bombing scene. And the bombing scene itself, it's not played at all for like an action scene or anything that. It's just a horrifying 5-6 minute sequence with just blood and shoes, and you really feel there's some great shots of behind Mark Wahlberg's character. You kind of see the perspective, and it's really a great sequence and very well. It's tastefully done, and just a very accomplished sequence. And I think Mark Wahlberg in those 3 or 4 scenes involving the bombing gives one of his that's my phone, sorry. Gives one of his best performances I've seen of his. I know Mark Wahlberg's a big star and all, but he usually just kind of plays the same character. And here he's able to let his guard down a little more, you know?
Yeah. I jumped when the bombing scene happened because with Peter Berg, what I noticed what he likes to do is he builds up tension to these scenes. Like even in the later scene in the cars and stuff, he builds up the tension almost to the point where you don't know when because you know the story, but you don't know when it's gonna happen as far as the movie goes because of the way he builds up the tension. And that was the thing with the bombing scene. Actually, I jumped because I didn't know when that was gonna be shown. Because they shown the 2 terrorists with a backpack and everything walking, and I was like, damn, when's this going to happen?
The movie is about the bombing, but I think people are being a little misguided because that is honestly just the first 40 minutes of the movie. The rest of the movie, the next hour 20, is about catching the Snarnov.
Sarnaev.
Yeah,
Tamerlan and I think Jokar or something.
Whatever.
Something like that.
One of the Naked Brothers band guys, Alex Wolff played the younger one, I think.
Yeah, he looks. Yeah, he actually does look like him.
I'll use IMDb to confirm it, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah, I did recognize
Yep,
him.
that's
I was like, what?
Alex Wolf.
Damn, what an awful role to play in, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a rough role.
but yeah, the rest of the movie focuses on FBI, played by main agent, played by Kevin Bacon, and then you have the police chief, John Goodman,
Yeah.
and then you have a local county chief, J.K. Simmons, who are all involved in certain ways in catching the Zarnov, whatever the hell their names
The
are.
casting must have cost a lot because there's a lot of good actors.
Well, there was a lot
It
of
was
veteran.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was veteran actors.
yeah, they're good actors. I
Yeah.
mean, but they're the only like well-known actors. I mean, Jimmy O Yang plays an important role. Some of you will know him as Jing Yang on Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
He does a pretty good job in a role we haven't seen from him before. But everyone in the movie is pretty good. Everyone gives a pretty good performance.
Yeah, and Mark Wahlberg was not like he was the star, but they didn't like portray him as the main hero, which was kind of
Well,
nice.
this is definitely more of an ensemble. It turned after the first 40 minutes, it turns into an ensemble piece. Kind of.
I heard Wahlberg played like just a generic cop. Like it
Well, no.
It was like they were trying to show him as like all the cops.
He
It
was
like, trying to.
Yeah, it was a compiling of two police officers. Yeah. One of the police officers was at the finish line of the bombing and was at one of the other key events, and then the other one was at the other two key events in the movie. So it was a compiled character, which isn't that unfamiliar in a movie like this. But I give Berg and his team credit for the most part being factually accurate. You can Google, look up articles and stuff, but aside from a couple smaller, kind of minute things, it's a pretty accurate movie.
Yeah, I remember following it back in that April, and I didn't like read articles and stuff after seeing it, but I do remember most of it is pretty accurate, like the brother getting run over and all that. I mean,
all right, that's kind of a spoiler.
Well, it's not a spoiler, man. People know what happened. It's one of those movies where you always want to see the journey. You know?
I always assume some people don't know exactly what happened with things. I mean, this is definitely
we live in Eastern Mass, so I guess that's we probably know better than most people in the country. But
there's some details about the story I didn't know, and they were interesting to learn. I think the movie, from its second half on, moves at a very lean and mean pace. Everything kind of goes quickly, you know, but I don't know. I think the movie fails at like his first two movies at capturing a grander sentiment about what this means. I mean, the movie tries to have that kind of rah-rah, you know, Boston. That was very present in the city, but it just feels really contrived how it's handled. Mark Wahlberg makes a really, really stupid speech towards the end where it's just like,
it was the crowd pleasing.
Yeah, it's the, you know, get the tissues out, and it felt very contrived and very forced. It didn't feel like a natural piece of dialogue.
After the bombing scene, for me, it almost felt like another documentary about the Boston bombing, because like it was just the events and everything, but like you said, like it was kind of fast. I never like. A lot of the there was a lot of characters in this movie, and they had to like kind of end all their specific plots at the end, and it did feel a little quick. And I felt like I've seen so many documentaries about it, and this just felt like another one for me. The last hour and a half of it. That's just my opinion.
I think there's a lot of moving pieces. Some of them work better than others, but I think if this movie had a better director, no insult to Berg, who does a good job technically, but Catherine Bigelow, like with Zero Dark 30, someone to really kind of get into the minutia of what this means and really have more of a distinct voice. Because I think Berg is very much a good director at making kind of crowd-pleasing, mainstream, you know. Yeah. I think most people will like this movie and kind of, even though it has some tough moments. But Bigelow is definitely more of a distinct voice, and I think would have given this material a little more life.
Yeah.
And I think the same could be said by Mark Wahlberg, who he's very good in the movie, and one of his better performances, like I said, but someone who doesn't play as much to the crowd, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, while, like, the explosions and everything were, like, impressively shot, I still think, like, it was everything that I expected from this movie, and that's something I don't like. I like to be kind of surprised. This is why I like Live by Night more than you. I was kind of surprised. This movie, there wasn't much for me that I didn't know. like yeah, there was a little things like you said, but like most of it I knew, and I wish I saw like something different come out of it, and it wasn't
I don't know.
that
I
satisfying.
think this uh at least you care. You're like
Yeah,
I was expecting really not to like this movie. I wasn't very excited to see it. But they respect the victims, and they give them a very authentic take of what happened, and I like that. It seems like Berg and Wahlberg really actually cared about telling the story, and they didn't cheapen it, and it didn't feel like exploitation.
yeah,
It didn't the action scenes were never like supposed to be fun. Like that Deepwater kind of went into
yeah.
that territory at points where it's like, is this like a disaster movie or is this actually paying tribute to the people who died? But I like that this doesn't really feel like an action movie. It's just more like a historical piece. Like the action scenes are very sometimes hard to watch because they're very detailed and
Yeah.
explosive, as one could say.
Yeah, it seems like they were being respectful to the people who died, like the people's families from the people who died in the bombing, because they didn't like mention them a lot. That wasn't what the movie was about, which was something I did enjoy, I guess. Because you got to be, I mean, because it's only been what 4 years. You got to be almost
Not
4 years.
even.
Yeah, almost 2 months, 3 months, but you still got to be respectful towards the families because it's still fresh in people's minds.
Yeah, but the movie is it's pretty good. I was about to say very good, but
Yeah.
I'll say pretty good. If you've seen Lone Survivor or Deepwater Horizon, you kind of know what to expect from a filmmaking style. It's gonna have the end credits where the big music and
Yeah.
they have the stupid David Ortiz,
Oh yeah.
all
I
that.
don't think that was needed.
No, it just feels really corny.
I
Like
don't think that was needed.
there's a nice subtle way to do it, and it feels overblown. The movie definitely plays to a more mainstream crowd. I
Yeah.
think if you like those movies, I'm pretty sure you're gonna like this one. And I think it's slightly better than those movies, but not a drastic improvement in any way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was more mainstream than say like Hidden Figures. I think Hidden Figures took a more interesting route.
Uh,
I think it took a more interesting route because
I think this connects more than
I know
Hidden
it connects
Figures.
more.
It has
but,
it has more of a pathos to it. I mean, Hidden Figures was pretty good though.
Yeah.
I think they're about the same in my book.
Oh. I think Hidden Figures is better. I like to watch a movie where like the story and I don't know about.
If I had to pick one, well, that's not the movie's fault though.
I know it could be I grew up in the era.
I think
obviously of this.
If I had to
Boston
pick one to
Marathon.
watch again, I'd pick Patriots Day because I think it definitely has more resonant moments, and even though the end is kind of cheap, I think the bombing scene itself is very memorable. It's a movie I'll remember
Yeah,
more
well,
than Hidden
it's also
Figures.
resonates for like we grew up. It's like our 9/11.
Not even that.
It's like our 9/11 kind of.
I'm not gonna classify myself as a Bostonian. I'm from fucking
I
Western
know, but
Mass.
but no, I'm just saying like our generation. Like this is something that I remember. That I will remember.
I'd say Sandy.
I remember.
I'd say
I still remember the day and everything.
not to debate tragedies, but I'd still think Sandy
Yeah.
Hook is kind of the
Yeah,
9/11 because
yeah.
that's fucking tragic.
Yeah, that was
But yeah, we'll get into ratings. What would you give it?
6.5. It felt like a documentary after 40 minutes.
Yeah, but that's not feeling like a documentary.
But that's not a good thing, Matt. Like that's
Wait, how's that not a good thing though?
because like
Documentaries
you
are
watch-
good movies.
Yeah, but you watch those so many. Like there's been plenty of documentaries about the Boston Marathon that we've already seen. You want to see like a different perspective.
I think the moments with Jing Yang, I forget the fucking.
Well, they
actor's name,
touched on that too. And
I know, but there was enough like where you're like engaged, and I don't think it feels like a document. I disagree with that comment because it plays to more of the crowd pleasing elements. Documentaries are very objective. They don't like. It just kind of here's the facts. This tries to, rah patriotism, Boston. The big speeches. I don't think it felt like a documentary in that sense because it definitely is trying to play more to an emotional perspective.
I mean, I still feel like it went like in order, like factually. Like, this is what happened.
I know, but
this is what happened. And
do you understand what I'm?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I will say this though about the terrorists. I mean, you weren't rooting for them, obviously, but at least like we at least we got to see how their thinking process was and how idiotic it was and stuff like that. They weren't just like kind of I don't know, objects, I guess, thrown in there.
Yeah, they weren't depicted as like aliens. Like
Yeah.
in Lone Survivor, the bad guys are just random Taliban. Yeah,
I mean,
really understand
they were
it.
obviously, heartless and pretty awful people, but like at least you got to see what their mindset was.
So yeah, I'm debating whether I should give it a 7 or a 7.5. I think, I'll give it a 7.5. Actually, I was engaged during it. I enjoyed it.
Moving it up.
Yeah, I was really engaged. I'm not gonna lie, but in the back of my head, I kept thinking, if Catherine Bigelow directed this movie, it'd be a 9 or a 10. It would be one of the best movies of the year. But
Really?
it's not quite. But for what it is, it's pretty good. And honestly, it's a genuine surprise for me because I really did expect to not like this movie. I was not looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're like me with like Live by Night or
Because
something.
I just didn't get why it existed. Like I don't, and I think this at least, it has a reason to exist. I think it's an important. It has some importance to it. So
yeah,
I'll give it credit. But that's our review for Patriots Day. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you're at the movies this weekend, go see that over Live by Night.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
All right, have a good day, guys.
See ya.